Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the September 8th Village of Arlington Heights Board of Trustees, and the first order of business is if you'd all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. At this point, we'll do a roll call. So, Becky, please.
Trustee Baldino.
Here.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Here.
Trustee Grasse.
Here.
Trustee Dunnington.
Here.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Here.
Trustee Bertucci.
Here.
Trustee Shirley.
Here.
Trustee LaBedz. President Hayes.
Okay, well, we do have a quorum here tonight, so we can have our meeting. I should announce right now that Mayor Hayes and Trustee LaBedz are out of the country at the moment, and I, being the old fart on the commission here, am appointed to at least get the meeting started. And the first order of business here is to ask if we can have a motion to appoint someone to serve as the presiding officer for tonight.
I'll make a motion to appoint Trustee Tinaglia as the presiding officer for the evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Bertucci.
Yes.
Trustee Grasse.
Yes.
Trustee Baldino.
Yes.
Trustee Shirley.
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you all. So we're going to get started here. The first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and that is for the 8/19/24 board, village board meeting minutes. And we have the only set of minutes to be approved tonight. Are there any trustees that would like to suggest any revisions? Anyone who wants to pass?
I pass, please.
Pass for Trustee Grasse. And anyone who, I guess that's it. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Move approval of the village board meeting minutes from August 19th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Baldino, and a second was Trustee Dunnington. Okay, great. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the accounts payable, and for that, I'd call on Trustee Bertucci.
I'll move approval of the warrant register for the check date August 30th, 2024 in the amount of $1,895,789.79.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve by Trustee Bertucci. Second was
I think Grasse. Oh,
Trustee Schwingbeck. Very good. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, the motion will, I'll actually take that back. We're going to have a roll call.
Trustee Bertucci.
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington.
Yes.
Trustee Shirley.
Yes.
Trustee Baldino.
Yes.
Trustee Grasse.
Yes.
President Pro Tem Tinaglia.
Yes. All right, excellent. The next item of business is recognitions and communications. Tonight's kind of a special night. We have our police staff here today with Chief Pecora, and they're going to present something called the 2024 Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge Awards. Chief, come on up.
Thank you, Trustee Tinaglia and members of the board. Good evening. The police department is privileged to join you this evening, and as you see on the table in front of you, there's a number of awards that were presented to the police department. We're here to officially convey those awards to the village, and Mr. Paul Rizzo, a law enforcement liaison from the Illinois Department of Transportation, and also the co-director of the Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge, is here to convey those awards. Before I introduce Paul, I'd like to introduce members of the police department that are here. Deputy Chief Joe Pinello, Commander Chris Sefton, who leads the traffic unit, Sergeant Russ Mandel, who is here. Russ does the yeoman's work of getting the traffic safety mission out there. He's also the coordinator of the application for which this award was generated from. The people that do the majority of the work, there are three of them, and there are traffic enforcement officers. Officer Jeff Aiello is here, and Officer Matt Bocek is here. Officer Dave Lavin could not join us this evening. And I neglected to introduce Deputy Chief Greg Zernicki. He's joining us this evening. So without any further ado, I'd like to turn over the microphone to Mr. Paul Rizzo.
Thank you, Chief.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm from the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police. For the past 31 years, we have put on a recognition program for police departments throughout the state. And I'm happy to say that your police department is a consistent winner of the award for not only the category that they fit into as far as the number of officers on the department, but this year they have taken first place in the championship class, which pits first place winners in all the categories against each other. Not only have they won the first place award in the category of the championship class, but they also have won specialty awards, occupant protection awareness, distracted driving awareness, and bike pedestrian safety awareness. It has gotten to the point now where I'm thinking of prohibiting them from entering this contest anymore because frankly, I'm tired of coming to these meetings and giving away so many awards. But they do a fantastic job, as evidenced by the fact that if you go into the traffic office, you can see all the awards from the decades that they've been participating. We're happy to have them on board, and you should be too.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words. I think Chief Pecora and his team, I think if Mayor Hayes were here, he'd say they are second to none. And I think we all here would agree with that. So that's fabulous. Thank you. Chief, you want to share any of these awards, what they're called? And
Well, I'd like to bring the team up here and maybe we can do
Absolutely.
a photo
Let's do-
op and we could preserve the moment here with some,
Yes, let's
some
do
photograph.
that. Do you guys all want to go down there?
I was going to say.
Let's all go down there. Come on. Come on. We're all team tonight. Okay, we're all going down. Should wear better shoes.
That's great. Okay, so let's see, we went like this, a little bit like that. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Well, and very good. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you.
Chief, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay, so next on the agenda. Where am I at here? Citizens to be heard, right? Or actually, it's public hearings. There are no public hearings this evening, so we're going to move on to citizens to be heard. And in this section of the meeting, as you all know, it's about participating on items not on the agenda, and it's for anyone who wants to speak about an item that they feel it's important but not on our agenda. Becky, do we have any blue cards for that?
Not tonight.
Not tonight, so there is no citizens to be heard. If you have commentary on other items coming up here, just hold those and we'll call you appropriately when that's ready. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and this is a big category of items that will be voted on with one vote. And so the first question is there anyone, any trustee, excuse me, that wants to remove an item on the consent agenda for a separate consideration?
I would.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Thank you. I'd like to just pull off consent item 4F, the lead service line rebate program.
Okay, so shall be done. Anyone else? Anything else? Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like one of the trustees to pull anything off of the consent agenda? Seeing none, I guess what we'll do then is we'll ask for a motion to approve the remaining items except for the one that's been removed.
Move approval. Second.
Approval by trustee Schwingbeck, second by trustee Baldino. Any further discussion?
Just for clarification, we're, the consent agenda minus 4F, correct?
That's right, the remaining one's minus 4F.
Okay.
Okay, if
I'm
no,
ready.
okay, no other discussion, and if we can have the village clerk call the roll?
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes?
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington?
Yes.
Trustee Shirley?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes. Okay, and now, as I understand it, we're going to take up 4F right away after this, is that correct?
That's fine.
Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. Trustee Schwingbeck.
Thank you. So I wanted to just pull this off. I know, Randy, we've had an opportunity on the board to talk about this for quite a while now. And I got a few phone calls over the last few days. I think residents might be still a little confused. I just think this is a big project in our village, and I'd maybe just like to, not only for folks here, but also at home, to maybe walk through this again, because there's projects going on around town. We were going to take a look tonight at this item, approving this rebate program, and still there seems to be maybe a little uncertainty and some confusion out with our residents. So just wanted to have you guys walk through this program again, because I think we all understand it, but I'm not sure the residents do.
Sure. The state of Illinois and there's upcoming regulations by the federal government require the removal of lead service lines wherever they're found within every community. And Arlington Heights does have it's roughly 20% of our service lines in our community are lead service lines. That's to be differentiated from the water mains that run throughout the community providing water to everybody. Service lines are the piece of pipe that connect the water main that run down your street to your home. We don't have any lead water mains. Service lines, there are two parts to them. There is a public part which connects the water main to the what we call the buffalo box, which is that little valve on your driveway. And then there's the private part that's maintained and the responsibility of the homeowner that runs from the buffalo box to your home. So the village is going to be replacing all of the public lead service lines, the ones that we're responsible for. Again, those ones between the water mains and the buffalo box. For private lead service lines, the village will reimburse 50% or up to $2,500, whichever is less, for eligible costs associated with those private service lines for residents who participate in the program, and this would be retroactive to January 1st, 2024. In the case if someone has a hardship where they can't afford that, we will work with them where we can develop a payment plan and or allow them to use a property lien in lieu of payment to residents that qualify for income assistance programs similar to those managed by our Health and Human Services Department. So if you can show that you have a need, we'll work with folks on that. There are options. There is an option for people who flat out just do not want to participate in the program, and there is an opt-out option. That's something that's required by the state to have an opt-out option for individuals who just do not want their service line to be replaced. In those cases, there's waivers and so forth that can be signed. They have to be re-noticed every year to let them know that they have a lead service line. And then also, I believe there are other things we have to provide to the individuals.
Water filter, yes.
Water filters, that they have the option to utilize. I don't know if I missed anything of substance. So that's the basic program. Obviously, we're happy to answer any more detailed questions.
And that waiver that the residents are then being asked to sign if they don't want to move forward with it, that's just a requirement by the state of Illinois. It still they're not signing away any liability or anything.
No, they every year can be re-noticed, but they're basically saying I don't want, they're making the choice because it's their property that they don't want to have that issue addressed.
Okay, thanks.
Trustee Bertucci.
As long as this is being discussed, Randy, so I know that there are kind of somewhat step-by-step guidelines for a resident, but as long as we're on camera, so to speak, and the residents may or may not be able to see this. So if I'm a resident that wants to take advantage of this program, and it says you have to fill out this form, do this, but I walk into the village hall, and there's multiple desks, multiple departments, and what's the first thing I do? I look around and I'm looking for what department?
mean, generally, they go into Public Works or Finance. You want to walk it through, Rob?
Yeah, so what every applicant will need to, if it's in conjunction, if it's not in conjunction with a project, they will go to the building department. They will apply for a no-fee permit. That no-fee permit application will go to the utility superintendent, who will make a determination that they can or can't participate, primarily based on available funding. After that process takes place, once the resident completes their portion of the service line, they have to give the village staff 30 days to complete the public portion of the service line. And so it ensures that the work is completed in a somewhat consistent basis of start to finish, from the private side to the public side. So, and then that's it. Once we inspect it and ensure that everything was done to code, then that person submits proof of payment to the contractor, and then finance would process it, process the refund.
They also could wait until the village does its work and do it concurrent with the village's contractor, correct?
Yeah, yes, if it's in conjunction with a village contracted project, which will be happening throughout the duration of the program.
Got it. So a resident can say, hey, I know they're coming down my street. Everything's going to get opened up. There's guys, gals and guys right there working on the project. Dig in and do my lines too.
And that's why staff is trying to line up capital programs years in advance, so we can give all residents within the different construction zones advance notice that they can plan out their service replacement in accordance with those projects.
Okay, I like it. I like the plan.
And if I could, Trustee Tinaglia, what I was going to say as well is, once this policy is finalized, we will be putting this information out, widely and made available on our website and so forth, so that folks can find out about it. And obviously, staff is always available to answer resident questions.
Right, excellent. Communication is key. The more folks know, the better prepared everyone will be. Trustee Schwingbeck.
Yeah, so just one more thing, Randy, and I know we have some residents here tonight that had actually reached out to me, and I talked to Chris on this earlier today. So this was a project on Rockwell where they were tearing up the streets, and if they want, they can come up and talk, but it sounds like they were totally surprised by this. So the street work was being done, and then they were told, you should replace it, not that you have to. And that's why I wanted to at least get across that
Right.
It's not mandated. But they were given the names of, I think, 3 contractors that they could call. So it was kind of a surprise. They didn't know it was happening, even though that entire street of Rockwell was being ripped up for months. So I'm not sure that communication piece is there yet. But if they'd like to come up, they can certainly do that.
And I'd be happy to talk to them offline too.
Yeah.
But either way, whatever you think is best.
My name is Thomas Kneffel, 407 East Rockwell Street, Arlington Heights. I just wanted to rise in support of what you're doing in terms of a rebate. We were kind of blindsided just because the rehabilitation project along Rockwell Street, especially the block that included our house, included installation of water main for the first time. And it was the installation of the water main which triggered the necessity to replace the lead service line from the water main to the Buffalo box at our house. And from what I understand, in talking to Public Works, who were very helpful, both Scott Schweda and his assistant Ryan told us that we were, as a result of the disruption of the water service, in other words, the actual replacement of the lead service line, it would be our responsibility to find a contractor to replace the homeowner-owned portion of the service. which we have done. We got nice quotes of $8,900, and we're set up for the 10th of this month to have that work done. But the big surprise is not so much for us. I think we can cover that out of our savings. And thanks to you, if you do vote in favor of the rebate, we look forward to that. But we're wondering if it could be publicized a little bit better, perhaps in the village newsletter or something like that, to keep residents up to speed with regard to identification of lead service coming into the house, and then what the responsibility is of the homeowner when that service is interrupted or affected by repairs and reinstallations. So thank you very much for your service, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming tonight and sharing your story. I appreciate it very much.
Happy to do so.
Trustee
Any
Schwingbeck,
questions for
anything
me?
else?
No, that'd be it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Tenai, if I could add.
Yes,
Yeah, so there is a section on our website that does show all of the known private lead service lines in the community on our website. And one of the challenges, we've already begun replacing the public portion of our lead service lines. And we purposely began with ones where we didn't believe there was any private service lines at those locations. Because there's some locations where there's just a public lead service line and not a private. There's some where there's both, and there's some where there's just a private. We purposely began in the area where we didn't believe there were any private, and because we wanted to finalize this policy first. However, we're finding that once we get in the ground and you look, a lot of these things were built many, many years ago when records weren't as good a long time ago as they are now. We did have a few surprise ones that we discovered, and those are the ones that we're kind of dealing with on the fly. But if the board passes this policy, it'll enable us to give very clear direction to residents and put information out, for everyone remaining.
Okay, thanks, Manager Reckhouse. And just as a quick follow-up, is there a way that a person on their own can go in their home, in their basement, wherever this service is coming, and identify by looking at it or somehow visually inspecting what's coming in from outside into the house? Does a lead line look very differently than something else?
Yes, there are some visual inspections you can do where you use a penny to scrape the pipe and it will turn up shiny. There's plenty of information online. I think we have a picture on our website. I will say that our meter installation contract that the village is currently undergoing, replacing 100% of all residential meters, is doing a visual inspection of all piping by an Illinois licensed plumber. So we will have a 100% accurate inventory of our service lines, of the private side service line material, by probably the beginning of October next year. So we're moving through the community at a really good clip. And our contractor is way ahead of schedule. So October 1st would be a really conservative estimate of when we will have 100% of the information that we need to educate residents on their service material.
And just for anyone who wants a quick head start, you can go to the Village of Arlington Heights website, vah.com.
Right.
And approximately where on this website will they be able to find this?
If they search, if they put in their address bar, vah.com/lead information, and it will take you right to the website.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anyone else on this before we move to vote? Anyone from the audience? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please? Actually,
Motion.
the motion, I thought, okay, go ahead.
Tom, you want to make it?
Sure. Yeah, no, I would move that we approve consent item 4F, lead service line rebate program guidelines, license, waiver liability, and hold harmless agreement.
Second.
Motion by trustee Schwingbeck, second by trustee Baldino. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes?
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Shirley?
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes. Okay, that concludes the consent agenda portion. Now we're going to move on to new business, if I have it correct. And the first item is for the moorings, which is an independent living expansion at 811 East Central Road, PC number 24-008, Plan Unit Development Amendment for height variations and parking variation. So this is the first item on the new business, and is a petitioner present in the audience? Will your speakers please come in? Come up. Is there a PowerPoint presentation that you want to go through on this? It is. It's right in front of my nose here. Fabulous. All right, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, and you'll have an opportunity to do the presentation, and then staff will also do a presentation, and then we'll go from there.
Would you like us to introduce ourselves first down the line and
Why
then
don't you go ahead
start
and
again?
introduce everybody who might be speaking, and then if they do speak, they do. If they don't, that's okay.
Okay, I'm Lisa Vandermark, Executive Director at the Moorings.
Good evening. I'm Drew Roscos from Perkins Eastman.
Kevin Clark with the Lakota Group. Chris Fish with Erickson Engineering.
Nadim Ebiantoun, President and CEO of Presbyterian Homes.
Steve Corcoran, also with Erickson Engineering.
Brendan Penny with the law firm of Meltzer, Pertil, and Stell.
Very good. And so who will be doing the presentation tonight, the majority of it?
The people that are standing here.
Well, who's going to start speaking, I guess is my question.
I'm the lead off tonight.
There you are, okay.
Again, Lisa Vandermark, and thank you for the opportunity to present this proposal to you tonight. You've met the cast of thousands here. And we are, as you know or may recall, we have asked for amendments in the past. Presbyterian Homes acquired the moorings in 2000, and in 2005, we added 22 villa residences to our independent living community. And then in 2015, 73 assisted living apartments and 20 assisted living memory support apartments. And each time was in response to what the market was demanding, and we thought as an improvement to our community, being able to serve more residents and support our mission. And as you know, we're joined by members of the Presbyterian Homes team as well as our mooring staff. And at this point, I'll turn the microphone over to Kevin Clark from the Lakota Group. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lisa. Good evening. Thanks for having us tonight. We're going to do an overview of the project and what we're proposing. I'm Kevin Clark. I'm a director of design with the Lakota Group. We're planners and landscape architects. I'm joined by Perkins Eastman team. They're the lead. They're the architects on the project. And you also hear from Erickson Engineering, who has civil and traffic engineering expertise. Before we get into the amendments that we're requesting, we want to give some context, just a little bit about where we've been and where we're going and where we hope to go. A timeline of our entitlement process. Almost a year ago, we informally met with planning and development at the village to get this process going and lay out a schedule for getting this approval leading up to tonight. In February, we met with the moorings residents to inform them of the plans for independent living expansion. We've had staff and development committee reviews, conceptual plan committee review meetings, design commission meetings. We had 3 different neighborhood meetings in May, and then design commission, plan commission, and then tonight with you guys. A little bit of context just to remind everybody about previous amendments and where we are on campus and where we're proposing the new expansion. Just for context, the large gray building in the middle is the independent living building, which we want to attach to with the new expansion. Just north of that, the skilled nursing, short-term rehab, and memory care building. And then the campus is lined by the villas that go around the perimeter. In 2005, we had an amendment for independent living villas. And then about 10 years after that, the area that's kind of in that beige color on the screen there, the assisted living and the assisted living memory support buildings were part of that amendment. And then the green is the proposed amendment just north of the independent living building now. Just a few images to remind people what the site looks like, that kind of red line moving from the north down into the site, starting with the picture on the top left. That's the entrance in the campus from Central Road. You can see the signage, which we're hoping to replace as part of this project. There's the guardhouse. And then if you look to that bird's eye, that's that red line leading toward the independent living building now and the portico share where you would enter the site. That parking lot, by and large, is where the new expansion is proposed. And just another image of the building as it is now. A few statistics here. So we're proposing 70 additional independent living units. That would make it 521 dwelling units on campus, and that consists of independent living, but also the cottages and villas, memory support, assisted living, and skilled care beds. There will be 70 structured parking spaces for the independent living residents in that building. 621 parking spaces total for campus, 5 levels, which matches the existing building, the building height of 67.5 feet. And then, we're well within our building coverage for the site and the FAR for the site. We're under that as well. So the asterisks are where we get to the amendments. The variations we're requesting tonight, first to allow for the 67.5 foot tall 5-story building. 2 is to allow for 2 6.5 foot tall elevator overruns to be constructed above the maximum building height. And the third one is to reduce the amount of required off-street parking by 15 spaces. So from 636 to 621. Now I'm going to hand it over to Drew Roscoe to talk a little bit about the site and the building, and then you'll hear from me again.
Good evening. I'm Drew Roscoe. I'm an associate principal at Perkins Eastman. I am an architect and a gerontologist. So what we see here is a site plan that just outlines in dashed lines where the scope of work is. The site entry will remain the site entry. We are changing the road as you come in off of Central Road, but the curb cut is still going to remain. And the main entry to the IL building will stay the same. A couple of things to point out on this slide is that there are 5-story buildings on the campus already, and our building that is being proposed is adjacent to those buildings. And then the round barn is just bottom left of the letter S in scope of work. And so with that round barn will remain intact. Thank you. So this is our proposed building footprint. You'll see in the next couple of slides some architectural moves that I'll go through quickly, but that are worth pointing out. One of the things here that we're want to point out about the footprint is that the existing travel distance on the site is roughly 455 feet from the furthest apartment to the community space. And that was a large and primary goal for the client to not increase the travel distance in the proposed expansion. So what that meant was that we had to do a smaller footprint and be more concise with our building, which meant that it had to go taller. And so that's worth pointing out that we wanted to try and reduce the amount of overall travel distance for the residents. Some aerial perspectives of the building, the proposed building in the white with the adjacent buildings that are existing. We took cues from the existing buildings to inform the design of our facade. And so we're turning the building toward the round barn and sort of embracing it at certain key points in the existing building. So when the building steps from the existing building steps from 5 to 4 stories, we're turning the building. And when the building existing building ends, we're turning again. So we're trying to, they're rotating or angling the building toward the round barn. We're also taking cues from the existing architectural material palette. So we're using materials that respond to the adjacent building, the existing brick building, and then also to the existing round barn, and providing views out from that turned footprint approach. It's a larger view of the ground floor plan, so you sort of get a sense of how someone might walk around or interact with the building. So the site entry is from the north of this, and visitors and people will come in at the main entry. So the main entry to the building today will be the main entry after the building is built. There will be a connector link, which is somewhat shown with an arrow. So there's a connector link from the existing building to the new building, and that carries through to the other side, so that people that want to use that as a pass through to the round barn or to the garden to the north of it can use that. We are also on the left side of the screen. You'll notice the loading zone. The loading zone that we're proposing is also adjacent to an existing loading zone for the campus already. So we're positioning activities similar to what they already are today. I'm going to hand it back to Kevin Clark to talk about the landscape design.
I'll give you guys a broad overview of what we're trying to do here. You know, from our perspective, we're not starting from zero. We have a really beautiful campus. So big things that we want to do are preserve existing landscape and trees that we have, and really respect that, but then enhance from there. We want to make better connections through the site, and that means building upon the path system for the residents, creating loops, creating walking paths, creating experiences for the residents. We want to create buffers to the east and add additional landscaping to respect our neighbors. And then finally, creating a series of spaces from the point that you arrive into campus and move through the site, creating a series of spaces that are framed by landscape and create value for the residents there. And so this is kind of the overall, and as you enter from Central and move south through the site, making sure that we have tree-lined streets, that we're adding landscape buffers to the east, really respecting that round barn, and maybe creating some kind of seating area or gathering in what we call the lawn in front of the round barn, and then creating that great soft foundation landscape that creates layers against the building, and framing the new entry area that has some parking. And I have a couple enlargements to show you. The walking paths, as I mentioned, just building upon the existing path system. The existing paths are in purple, and new paths are in orange. So really you can see that we're trying to create those loops, create accessible walks throughout the sites for residents to use for exercise and daily use. And thinking about how we enter the site in the sequence from the north, you know, the street now bends a little bit, realigning the drive as it goes towards the new entrance of the building, of the expansion. Small parking lot on the east, but really enhancing that with shade trees, some ornamental shrubs, perennials, and ornamental trees in the median. And also thinking about how we're using materials such as lighting, which exists on site, so expanding that palette of lighting so that we have safe drives and walks throughout the campus, and bollards in clusters at those places where people may gather. We have two sign locations, the entry monument sign, and then once you get further into campus at that key intersection, we have an identity entry sign, which we've shown some elevations here. So really picking up on cues of the masonry of the building and the materials that are going to be used on the building, so that we have that cohesive feel, blending the landscape, the signage, and the architecture into a palette of materials for the campus. And then finally, the what we're calling the main entry courtyard. This kind of focuses on the building itself. You can see the foundation planting, but also as you would enter into that courtyard space where there's some parking, and then, visitor and resident drop-off at the porte cochere, getting people in and out in a logical way, and reinforcing that with landscape and reinforcing that with materials. You'll see the stone piers in images. You'll see the idea that we want to create a pond overlook for people and residents to enjoy, and then just the idea of that landscape character really driving the campus to another level. With that, I'm going to pass this over to Chris.
Thank you, Kevin. I just want to briefly go over some of the civil site improvements and some of the existing campus features at the moorings. The existing campus has a very comprehensive stormwater management system already in place, designed in 1987. And within that stormwater plan, there are six existing stormwater detention basins, the 2 wet ones, which are very prominent, as well as 4 smaller dry basins. And as part of that is 2 watersheds, meaning water that drains in different directions. The shaded area drains towards the southeast corner of the campus and is picked up by a Village Mount Prospect storm sewer. And the non-shaded area is tributary to an existing sewer in Central Road on the north side of the campus. As part of the improvements, we will be adding 1 new wet detention pond at the eastern part of the campus. This is going to help offset some of the new impervious areas, as well as bring the disturbed areas up to the current code and using the most current rainfall data that we have. The result will be a net zero increase in the rate of stormwater as it leaves the site. To briefly talk about grading and other utilities, it's very important for the moorings campus to have first floor continuity. This allows ease of movement for the residents between the different parts of the buildings. We also will be having ADA access at all new sidewalks and doorways. For areas that we may have a steeper slope or more grade change, we'll be providing ADA accessible rampways. For sanitary and water utilities, there will be some conflicts with the new building location, so we'll be relocating utilities around the building. But offside of the relocations, we don't anticipate major improvements will be necessary. No new connections to public utility. I'd now like to pass it off to Steve Corcoran to talk about traffic and parking.
Good evening, Steve Corcoran, Director of Traffic Engineering at Erickson Engineering Associates. We prepared for this part of the PUD basically 3 studies in one. We did a traditional traffic impact study, how much traffic was going to be generated by the 70 new units and their impact on the roadway system. We looked at a traffic signal warrant study to determine if a signal would be warranted at the entrance to the moorings. And then last but not least, a parking demand study. As part of the traffic impact study, we did 13-hour counts, and we identified basically 4 peak hours, the AM and PM traditional commuter peak on Central Road, and then moorings had 2 different peak hours offset from those, and we analyzed those also. We also collected crash data and found that that intersection with Dryden Place and the moorings and Central Road is a low crash location. And then we looked at how much traffic was going to be generated by the 70 independent living units, and it's only like 14 to 21 cars depending on which peak hour we're looking at. We also calculated the year 2030 traffic projections with the additional site traffic. We also included the Dryden School traffic from their kindergarten addition, and then regional traffic growth on Central Road. And looking at the entrance of Central, Dryden, and moorings, most of the movements work well, but the northbound left has longer delays. That's to be expected on a state arterial roadway. and we concluded no improvements were required to that intersection. We also did a signal warrant study. The manual uniform traffic control devices spell out 9 different warrants or tests to determine if a traffic signal is warranted. And if the signal doesn't meet any of these warrants, we can't put in a traffic signal. I'm not going to go through all 9, but essentially we did not meet any of the warrants for a traffic signal at this time in this location. And last but not least, parking, as we kind of stated before, we're required to have 636 spaces. We're only providing 621. We're short 15 spaces, or about 2%, and we exceed the accessible parking requirements for the site. Thank you. And for our last speaker.
Good evening. We just wanted to conclude this presentation by reiterating the approvals that we're looking for this evening. It's been a long presentation, as we've touched on through various experts this evening. We're, of course, looking for approval for an amendment to the PUD to allow for the project that we've walked through. We're also looking for 3 associated variations with the construction of this project. The first being an approval to increase the maximum permitted building height from 45 feet and 4 stories to 67.5 feet and 5 stories. Approval for a variation to allow construction for 2 6.5 foot elevator runs on top of the building, and variation, as you've heard just now from Steve, to decrease the required off-street parking from 636 spaces to 621, which is a reduction in 15 total spaces. Also, along with these variations, we did submit written responses to the land use variation approval criteria. I don't want to run through them. They're quite lengthy here, but they are submitted. They should be part of your packets, and if you have any questions or concerns related to those, we're happy to address those as well. With that, I will wrap up. I will thank you very much again for your time this evening. As we said at the top of the presentation, we have our various project experts and team members here to answer any questions or concerns you may have, or members of the public may have. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you. Very nice presentation from everyone. The next part of the process is we'll go to staff for their report as well, and then after that, we'll open it up to questions from the audience or the board. So, Charles?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. As I switch presentations, just want to make a note, there's no relationship between this Perkins and the Perkins Eastman architects. So just want to set the record straight on that.
Charles, already?
Yeah. They are seeking, the moorings are seeking an amendment to their plan unit development. Their property is zoned institutional. It's 41.5 acres with about 531 units on the property. In comparison, Lutheran Home, Luther Village is about 73 acres and has about 1,100 units. So it's about, a little over half the size with a little less than half the units. The site is surrounded by residential, 2 sides to the east and south in Mount Prospect, and then to the west and north in Arlington Heights. There were some questions at the Plan Commission hearing about the existing access points. There's 3 access points to this property. 2 are along Central and 1 along South Douglas. The one on South Douglas and the one on West Central are reserved for emergency ingress or egress only. They would remain that way. The main entrance would be on Central Avenue as described by the petitioner, and that would not change. When we did first have conversations with the moorings and their team, we talked about some of the site planning characteristics. One, the preservation of the round barn. We encourage them to continue to preserve the round barn. We recognize it does create some challenges for site planning, but it's one of only 3 buildings in Arlington Heights listed on the National Register. 2, we talked about landscape buffer and setbacks to our neighbors to the east. And then 3, no more than 5 stories in height. There are some 5-story buildings on this property already. Before I move forward, there's a parking area down here that's kind of a single lane, a couple of lots that will be redesigned, and I'll talk about the phasing on that. Also, just to orient everybody, you can see in this building, when the assisted living building was approved a few years ago, there's a large fire lane running around the building and then around here, and there's a condition talking about different scenarios relative to that fire lane, so I just wanted to point that out. So they've talked about the height variations on the elevator towers. The actual building itself As I mentioned, there are some 5-story structures. The independent living is a 5-story structure on the property. The most recent assisted living is 4 stories. The current I district requires a minimum 35-foot side yard setback. So what they could build without any variations would be a 35-foot setback along the east up to 45 feet in height. We asked them, because they were looking at a taller building, to set this back further, so it's set back 5 times that amount, 180 feet, and the height is a third more than the 45 feet. So we feel they've done a good job, site planning the building, so it's further removed from the residential, and that 180 feet is from the closest point, the corner of the building, to the property line of the closest resident. Here you can see the landscape buffer. They have already, in the spring, planted some additional trees along that east landscape buffer to hopefully have those trees mature by the time they get through construction and occupancy. There is a condition that we're recommending that be inspected towards the end of the construction to see how well they're doing and whether additional landscaping is needed to be added. There is also a recommendation dealing with the fire lane. So the 2021-2022 International Fire Code allows a different construction methodology that would not require that fire lane that I just described. That's 18 feet with 26-foot areas for the set down for the fire apparatus. So it requires a different construction methodology. And if there was a change allowed in accordance with those codes that the village has not currently adopted, then the site plan could change. It would be a softer impact, on the area. There could be a larger green space around the building. That fire lane, you can see on the alternate plan here, could just be a sidewalk, and then the drive aisle could be a two-way instead of a one-way on the west here, where the drive aisle has to be closer to the building, and this is the 18-foot and then 26-foot driveway. So the building department is in the process of scheduling a building code review board to talk about this, and if they were to recommend that would come back to the village board. And if the village board were to approve it, you'll note one of the recommendations is that if it is approved, then they build the alternate plan because it provides more green space, little softer impact on the building and the site, and also does pick up about 7 additional parking spaces. The other item that was talked about at the Plan Commission meeting was to see a construction and logistics plan. So the moorings team have provided that. So the blue line coming into the site is the existing deliveries that would continue to be delivered to the site in the loading area that they referenced. The red kind of hatched line is a fencing area to fence in the construction area, and then the red line is how they would continue to maintain emergency access to the existing independent living to the kind of south and west. And then the different colors here just show the stockpiling and the staging areas and set down areas for the construction as well as the construction trailer. There would be no construction parking on Douglas Avenue. It is quite a way, this building, from Douglas Avenue, so that really should not be a concern. It did come up in the last amendment with the assisted living because that building was closer to Douglas Avenue. We've talked about parking, or the petitioner has, as a 15-space variation. Previously, they already have approval of a 40-space parking variation, so this is an improvement on the existing plan unit development. So the Plan Commission recommended approval 7-0 in favor of recommending approval to the village board, and the suggested motion is to direct staff and the village attorney to prepare the necessary ordinances to amend the plan unit development with the conditions that are outlined on this slide and the next slide. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that there may be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. All right, so at this point, we can ask for the village trustees to weigh in with any questions, then we'll go to the audience. Is there anyone on the board that has questions for either the petitioner or staff? Trustee Bertucci.
Thank you. More of a comment in that I had an opportunity, obviously, to read not only the packet but also the minutes, and I also visited the site to just have a better understanding. And a couple of things. One is when I visited the site, it reminded me how beautiful that campus is. And also, the executive director, Lisa, was very welcoming and accommodating in taking me outside and showing me where the building would be. And also, she spent some time explaining how the round barn, Charles, was going to be preserved. So with that all being said, I'm very much in favor of this, and I know there's still going to be further discussion, but if it's appropriate, Trustee Tinaglia, I could initially start and put the motion on the table.
Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Okay. I'll move to direct staff and the village attorney to prepare final documents approving the requested relief for consideration at a future board meeting for PC number 24-008, an amendment to PUD ordinances number 85-154, 88-057, 89-043, 91-108, 92-051, 93-051, 02-077, 06-069, and 15-046 to allow construction of a 5-story, 70-unit independent living building, along with the following variations to Chapter 28 to the Municipal Code, Section 10.4 to reduce the number of required off-street parking stalls from 636 to 621, Section 5.1 to 8.5 to allow 67.5-foot tall 5-story where building heights are limited to 45 feet and 4 stories, and Section 6.10 to allow 2 6.5 tall elevator overruns to be constructed above the maximum building height permitted in the I district, subject to the following conditions as recommended by the Plan Commission and Staff Development Committee. I'm not going to read those, but I see that they are up on the board there, a screen, I should say.
And there are 7 of those.
Correct.
Okay, you've made the motion. Is there anyone who wants to second that motion?
Second.
Who was it? Trustee Schwingbeck. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and we'll go into further discussion here at this point. Trustee Grasse.
Oh, thank you. I'm in support of these variations and really think it's a beautiful campus. I appreciate a lot of the wet pond and the different ways that you were incorporating the landscape. I also really appreciated the pedway with the maybe you could speak more to that with the covering on it. But it just really seemed to flow nicely, and I'm in support of these variations that are needed for the best benefit of this campus. And thank you very much.
Very good. Trustee Shirley? No? No. Anyone else? Trustee Dunnington?
Thank you. I too think this is a good project for Arlington Heights. I think that it fulfills a need that our seniors have. I think that I've heard from seniors that they want to stay in Arlington Heights, and that having this senior housing will allow them to stay here, and that it also makes some housing available to some families that would like to come to Arlington Heights when their homes become available. So I think it's a great project for Arlington Heights. I think the variations make sense that it is the 5 stories, so that it allows for some more green space. I really like the native landscaping on the property and the bollards that you mentioned for the pedestrian walkways for safety. I was wondering about the dry basin, if there was any discussion about maybe making that a naturalized space.
Someone want to address that? Come on up.
In short, yes, there has been discussion about that. That there's one pond, an existing pond on the north adjacent to Central Road and that has been a consideration to make it I would call it a wet pond with a naturalized edge, or and that would typically include like an emergent planting. It helps with stormwater quality, and I think adds a nice landscape aesthetic to it.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Trustee Baldino?
Thank you, President Pro Tem. I too, recognize the need that this is fulfilling. There is definitely a need for more senior housing for residents in Arlington Heights. And generally, I like the plans and I like the way this is moving forward. But I do have two questions, one of which is pertinent to our discussion and one which may not be quite so pertinent, but I'm going to ask it anyway. We kind of glossed over the parking deficit, to be frank about it. And I'm fully aware that it's an improvement over the 2015 plan where there was a 40 parking spot deficit and now it's less. But concerns have been raised about the lack of parking currently. And I just was hoping that someone could speak to the parking. We got a lot of the traffic study, which was great. Please talk to us about the parking deficit and how that's not going to be a problem.
Sure. The primary reason we have a parking deficit is actually due to the villas. The villas around the north side and west side of the campus consist of villas with 2-car garages and villas with 1-car garage. And the village code requires 2 spaces per villa. So the 2-car garages are fine, they meet it. The roughly 70-ish 1-car villas, or not 70, it's 50 1-car villas are short 1 space. So that's where most of our deficit comes from. So our deficit could have been bigger. So we're actually providing a surplus on the rest of the campus for the other units. But each one of those villas have at least 1 space in front of the garage. So there's plenty of parking for the villas. It's just the village code does not recognize those in terms of parking requirements for basically the standalone villas. So we're actually adding, I think it's a net total about 120 spaces through the rest of the campus, basically around the proposed building. 70 of those are going to, obviously be for the building itself. And then, so we're basically adding 50 more spaces in that area on the east side of the campus.
Okay. And talk to me briefly about how guest parking is handled.
Okay. Well, basically, they have different areas designated for staff, residents, and guests. And so I don't think we've came down to quite the detailed plan, but
Sure.
The guests are, obviously near the main entrance are probably going to be guest parking, and near some of the other visiting spots that visitors come to.
So if I can add in on the parking here, you'll see this chart, the fellowship hall is allocated 97 spaces. Obviously, there's nobody living in the fellowship hall, but those are used. I've been to events there, and probably most of you have as well. So that's being calculated. Also, the assisted living and the skilled care, there's a parking calculation for that. In reality, the residents, in those components don't drive or have vehicles. It's either employees or guests or visitors. So that's how it's been allocated in the formula.
Okay. All right, thank you. I think that answers my question about the parking. Moving on to the question that might not be so relevant. How are you going to handle the increased load on the amenities that are at the moorings? Concerns have been raised about events being full and not available to everyone. I don't think this is going to come into play in my decision on how I vote, but I just wanted to publicly ask the question, is there a plan for increasing capacity for amenities, events, making sure all the residents have access to those events?
I think I can address this, Trustee Baldino. When the moorings was built in 1989, there were 235 independent living apartments. Right now, we have 192. There were over 100 healthcare beds, and I believe 40-some assisted living. So we had actually more units at the community in 1989 than we do now. We had one kitchen that served the entire community. When we built the Highlands in 2016, we added another full kitchen, which serves all of the assisted living and our health center. So we have the kitchen that used to serve the entire campus is now serving just the independent living. So we do have space there. And when the moorings opened in 1989, there were 475 independent living units. Again, same size dining room, same size kitchen. What I think the residents at the moorings might be concerned about is that right now we have limited dining options. We have one main dining room with very specific hours, and I think that might be some of the issue. We are considering adding a dining venue, something that the residents have been asking for some time, and then opening up the hours. So if you have everybody coming at 4:30, it's going to be crowded. And the other piece is, it doesn't make sense to keep large cavernous spaces available all day when they're used maybe at peak times. So we have talked to residents about, we might have 2 fitness classes. If you've outgrown our gym for one fitness class, we'll schedule another one. So those are the types of things that we would do to accommodate the additional residents. But it's really when you look at it, it's really a net gain of about 30 or 35 independent living residences based on the number that we reduced over the years. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I appreciate you answering that question. Like I said, I don't think it's going to weigh on how I decide to vote, but the questions were asked, and I just wanted to have an opportunity to ask those questions in a public setting. Thank you, Trustee.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Thank you. The only question, and I like the project a lot, but somewhere in here I saw something, and I can't seem to bring it up right now, but the 67.5 feet. I thought I saw somewhere in here that based on construction of this building, that you may not need it to be 67.5. Am I correct there?
Would you
You
mind
could use
just
the
come
mic.
up to the podium? I'm sorry.
Otherwise, folks at home can't hear you, and we won't have it recorded.
Sure, thank you. Yes, there is a little bit of buffer that we're asking for to allow for different structural systems and different MEP systems to be considered as we go through the different design, development, and construction document phases.
So if it changes at all, is it somewhere, would it knock it down to maybe 65 or?
It could come down that low, yes.
It could come up, but no more than that. No more than the 67.5.
No more than 67.5.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it? Anyone else? Okay, anyone in the audience that would like to ask questions or get clarification on anything? Anyone else from the team that needs to speak? All set? Okay, so we have a motion, and we have a second. Any further discussion? If not, I think we're going to have a roll call.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes?
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Shirley?
Yes.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington?
Yes.
All right, so the motion carries. You guys are good to go for the moment. You can carry on with your work, and then will there be coming back for a second reading on this?
Or there'll be ordinance to be prepared for.
I suppose I'm supposed to direct you guys to do that, right?
Yeah, you all just did, so yes, we'll bring an ordinance forward, perhaps as soon as your next meeting, but.
You should prepare an audience for us as soon as the next meeting possible.
Yes, sir, Trustee Tinaglia.
Okay, thank you. All right. So now we're on to item B, which is the Spent Grain Brewing, which is 17 North Vale Avenue, PC number 24-009. That is a special use permit for a brew pub in the B5 district. And they're here for special use. Is the petitioner here tonight? And they are. Fabulous. So let's do the same drill. We'll have you guys do a little presentation of what you hope to do and how you plan to do it. And then when you're done, staff will give us a report as well. So tell us who you are.
Okay, I am Eric Lampkins.
And Heather Henkel. We are the owners of Spent Grain Brewing.
When you speak, please try to get close to that microphone so we can hear everything that you say. Thank you.
So quick introduction. I'm a resident here 15 years. Heather's 23 years. Some of you know us, I think, already. We have a couple local businesses. I've had Stone Soup 3 here in town for the last 15 years. Heather obviously runs the Kilwins. If you've been in there, you know her from there. We also have an apiary business that we have local beehives here in Arlington Heights that we harvest honey from. So that's a little bit about us. We're looking to open a nano brewery. Most people know what a brewery is, but when you say nano, they don't know what that means. So a single barrel, 31 gallons of beer is what we would be brewing. That's what makes it a nano brewery. It is a completely self-contained system. That's it on the screen there. It does not require any outside exhaust or ventilation. It's actually all self-condensing, so it keeps everything inside. And actually what's great about it is that steam is then recycled and used to clean the equipment when you're done. So it's kind of a really recyclable system. What we're looking to bring is have 16 beers on tap that are brewed on site. We are not looking to bring in beers from the outside. There are a lot of great breweries already in town. We are going to have, beer places to get beer in town. No breweries yet. We are going to have a fine wine selection, a whiskey tasting selection, a light menu made using the spent grains from our brewery, and then a small dining area with a mixed casual seating environment, and of course a bar. As far as our menu, we're looking to have about 4 to 5 appetizers with some seasonal stuff as well on the menu. But things like the pretzel flight, using different grains to make different pretzels and different homegrown mustards and stuff like that that we'd have as a flight, as an idea. Couple other options up there, soups, salads, and then some entrees, and of course desserts, not from Kilwins. So the other thing that we're looking to do is make it a very community-focused business. Obviously, being here, we love this town. We've gotten to know a lot of people. So we've already been in conversation with the Arlington Heights Historical Museum, and we are going to be providing Arlington Club soda instead of Coke or Pepsi as our soda options. We've already been talking with Zinga Brew about having that on site, and we might even have him brew on site. We have to talk about what that takes for him to make it, but to have his ginger beer brewed in the facility. We've already been working with Vintages, and we're going to have them do our wine selections so that, you know, we can put on the menu that, you know, these wine selections are available over at Vintages. It's kind of and obviously Thuringer Meats is another one. We're going to have some meats, and that's where we're going to be getting those from. Additionally, we've already been in talks with the Arlington Camera Club and the Art Guild. And what our plan is instead of having permanent art on the walls, we're looking to do like a quarterly thing where either we work with one artist from town or with the guild and put the artwork up on the walls and showcase local artists. What else did we also are looking to do, being the brewer, there's an opportunity. I've been a home brewer for over 25 years where I go to my brew supply store and she might have a bottle of beer there. She's like, oh, this guy just brought in this beer. You want to try it with me? And we get to try it. But there's no way for homebrewers to really showcase what they do. Unless you come to my house, you probably have never had one of my beers. And so one of the things we're looking to do is have opportunities for homebrewers that say, hey, I have a really good beer recipe, and we'll work with them and brew it and put it on tap. And again, it'll be like, you know, this tap is, you know, homebrewer Jim lives in Arlington Heights for 20 years and he's been brewing for this long. This is his IPA. So again, kind of a way to showcase people here in town with different things. We obviously have the space. This is just a rendering kind of what we're looking to do with the facade. We're not really modifying it too much. We're keeping the full look up front as far as the way it looks today, but we're removing the 2 existing front doors since it had 2 separate doors, and moving them to the far right. And then the plan would be to have similar to Cortland's with garage doors with screens. But at the end of the day, we want it to look pretty much what it looks like today on the outside. As far as what you're going to see when you come in, we're trying to keep it as a relaxed environment. We're going to put in 2 fireplaces, one facing our dining area, one facing our lounge area. It'll be quiet background music. It is not our intention to have live music, and if we ever did change our mind on that, it would be a single acoustic player in the back, nothing amped. We're not trying to create that environment of a lot of breweries have these, and I love music, a lot of music. Metallica's great, but it's like every brewery we go to, we're yelling to each other over that, and it's like that's not what we're looking to do. We want it to be kind of a place for beer lovers to come, but not have to yell to each other either. If I miss anything, let me know. As far as the basics, this is a preliminary floor plan where it's pretty close to where we're going to be, assuming everything gets approved. So we're looking at a dining area up at the top left, and then that double fireplace between the lounge area. Basically, the lounge will be couches and chairs, more of a relaxed environment. The bar will seat 14. The brewery, you can see, is actually in the middle of the kitchen on the closest to the bathrooms is where that brew system would be. All of our fermenting tanks and all that kind of stuff would actually be stored down in the basement, so they would be showing up there. As of right now, it is our plan to be open Wednesday through Sunday, with some consideration to open maybe on Mondays and Tuesdays, but first thing is get our feet wet and cross that bridge in a year from now once we get everything going. We would be closed by 11 on weekends. That's in agreement with our landlord because we do have tenants that live upstairs. And then Thursdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays at 10. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place here. Let's see here. This would be kind of the basement layout. So down directly underneath that would be the fermenting room up in the top half, and then a walk-in cooler where all the tanks that would hold the beer to go back upstairs to the tap handles would be located. That's it.
Very good. Okay, nice. Charles, is there a report from staff?
Yes, I will quickly go through the requested action. Whoops, that's the wrong one. So they are seeking a special use permit to allow a brew pub in the B5 district, and then a variation to waive the landscape, the traffic and parking study. This is an existing space. It's the former Bangkok Cafe site. It's in one of the older buildings in the downtown. Beautiful building. They have talked about outdoor dining. This is a concept. It can change as long as it meets our requirements, and hopefully they would participate in the Arlington Alfresco next summer as well. Parking-wise, there is a requirement in the village's parking code that parking off-street parking can be provided by leasing spaces from the village, and the duration and terms of such lease would be determined by the village. So there was quite a bit of discussion at the Plan Commission regarding this, and the original condition was perhaps a little overemphasized, and so the Plan Commission made some suggested modifications, asked staff to talk with the petitioner, which staff has done. We also looked at all of the different agreements that we have for restaurants in the downtown since the garages have been in operation. And there's about 14 with conditions, and we've more recently tried to have a more standardized condition, which is what you see on this slide in green, that the petitioner shall obtain the appropriate number of parking permits for employees to park in the municipal garage subject to availability. And the key here is the appropriate number. So we know the owners, they live close by, they'll probably walk. No point selling a permit for when they're not going to use it. If at some point their business was successful and they sold it, then there might be a different arrangement. So there are, out of all the restaurants that we have downtown, as I mentioned, there are 14 with these kind of conditions. There are others that have conditions in the PUD ordinance. There are some that predate this requirement, like Eddie's, for example. The ones that have some kind of condition, there were in 2023, the full calendar year, 111 permits acquired from those various businesses. And the parking system over time has evolved and changed. In the garage originally used to be 2-hour parking, then it became 3, then it became 4. The roof used to be commuter daily only, and then that changed to from noon onwards it could be free. We also then created a $15 downtown employee permit to make it more reasonable instead of the $30 or $35. So the system has changed, but now more and more people are using the garage, and there's less revenue coming in for the garage because there's less commuters, there's less people paying for the garage. So the rest of the village's funds are subsidizing the garage, and so it may have to change in the future. And so this condition allows that to be flexible not only for the village, but also for the petitioner. Again, if they've got 4 employees and they ride the bike or walk, no need to buy the permit. So hopefully that explains the rationale behind that. And the Staff Development Committee felt this was a great project, as did the Plan Commission, and recommended approval to the Village Board. And again, the recommendation would be to direct staff and the village attorney to prepare the necessary documents, bring that back at the next meeting with these proposed conditions, just basically the one, really. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank
Do you folks, have you looked at these conditions? I failed to ask this for the last group here, but are you in concurrence with them?
Yes.
Very good, okay. On the board, Trustee Glass.
First off, this sounds and looks like a fantastic addition to our downtown area. So thank you, and thank you for investing so much and being such an involved and active part of our community. I really appreciate what you want to do to collaborate and involve other people and businesses in the area. I just think that's wonderful. So I just really want to thank you for all of that, and I'm in full support of this. I'll go ahead and make a motion and get that seconded if it will be, and then we can go with the conversation. So I move to direct staff and village attorney to prepare final documents approving the requested relief for consideration at a future board meeting for Plan Commission 24-009, approval to allow a brew pub in the B5 district, along with the following variation from Chapter 28 of the Municipal Code, with the number 1 variation as mentioned, subject to the following conditions as recommended by the Staff Development Committee as we see above.
Second. Trustee Shirley, was that you? No. No, who was it? Trustee Baldino. Very good. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Trustee Bertucci.
I just as comment, and I would just comment to say a couple of things. Number one, this looks like a great project, and secondly, to actually commend both Eric and Heather on being what I might say pillars of the downtown businesses, between bringing Kilwins to town and certainly Eric's business and filling in and helping Tuscan during those years and that type of thing. They're both active in community and business associations and chambers here in town. So thank you both for what you do in the community and the business community. So I fully support this.
Trustee Dunnington.
Thanks. I'm just going to add on to that and just say that Arlington Heights is lucky to have Eric and Heather as residents and business owners in Arlington Heights, and your dedication to the community. It's great to see the partnerships that you're going to have with all the other businesses. And I'm excited about the artists' work that you're going to display. That sounds really fun. So thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I'll say thank you too. You guys, great work. This is very exciting and very creative. You know, it's a little different than the average restaurant bar type thing. So I hope you guys kill it. I hope it is fabulous. I hope you have just a happy time with it. And I think many of us will be happy to come and support your cause over there. So we have a motion, and I should ask the audience, is there anyone here who'd like to comment on this project or questions? And if not, I think we're ready for a roll call.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Shirley?
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes. Congratulations. Thank you. And we'll see you again pretty soon. So staff will go ahead and prepare the ordinance as in the other one, and we'll get this ready for the next time maybe. All right, so at this point, I'm going to call on, I think in the agenda here, it would be for Manager Reckhouse for his report.
Thank you, trustee Tinaglia. I would request that the board enter into closed session per 5 ILCS 120/2C21. Discussion of minutes lawfully closed, whether for the purposes of approval of the minutes or the semi-annual review of the minutes, and 5 ILCS 120/2C11, litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the village has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the board finds that an action is probable or imminent, and 5 LCS 120/2C5, purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired.
Very good. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second. Baldino, second by trustee Shirley. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
No.
Aye.
All right, you need a roll call vote for this, trustee.
See that? I made my first mistake on the last order of business. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Baldino.
Yes.
Trustee Shirley.
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington.
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci.
Yes.
Trustee Grasse.
Yes.
All right. Well, since then, we are formally adjourned and we will not be reporting out afterward. Are we good? Good. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your evening.